Christmas drinks near her home in Bristol last Friday. So let's go live to Joanna's home in Bristol now and speak to Sky's Rhiannon Mills. Rhiannon.
Well, this is even more heartbreaking and distressing, being at a time of year when so many of us are getting ready to spend time with our relatives. Instead, the parents of Jo Yates have found themselves caught up in this mystery of what exactly has happened to their daughter. Both of them, her boyfriend Greg and her friends, have been doing all that they can this week to try and find her, to try and raise awareness that she's gone missing. There are posters on every lamppost along this street. There's a website that's been set up. For all of them, though, Christmas really is on hold until they find Jo.
I just can't bear the thought of it.
Maybe she's out there somewhere by herself in the snow, frozen. It breaks me up.
They should have been preparing for their daughter to come home for Christmas. Instead, David and Teresa Yates were again appealing for help to find their Joanna. They fear that she's been kidnapped.
I just want her back, wherever she is. Jo, my little Jo, come back. And if anybody's got her, don't keep her. Give her back to us. We miss her so much.
My personal feelings, I think she was abducted from a flat after getting home from a flat. We've got no idea of the circumstances of the abduction, but because of what was left behind in the flat, we feel that she wouldn't have gone out by herself.
Last Friday, Jo had met up with work colleagues at the Ram pub in Bristol at 6 o'clock. She left at 8 o'clock and was caught on CCTV at 8:10 at a nearby Waitrose. At 8:40, she left a nearby branch of Tesco Express in Clifton, and police know that she returned home to Canage Road because a Tesco receipt for a pizza, her bag and her keys were all found in her flat by her boyfriend Greg Rhiannon.
But what we have not found is any evidence of this pizza, or the box, or the wrappings. I want to make an appeal, firstly, a general appeal to anyone who knows what's happened to Joanna, or where she might be now, but in particular I want to appeal to anyone who knows where this pizza is now, or where the box is, or any information at all that might suggest where it is.
It was her boyfriend Greg who reported her missing after returning from a weekend in Sheffield on Sunday night.
Her and Greg were totally in love. They were devoted to each other. She had nothing to... She had all the space she wanted. She had no work worries. She had no money worries.
Forensic teams today searched their flat, nearby woodland and the Avon Gorge, looking for any clues as to where she may have gone.
The helicopter, and I totally agree, a visual search isn't just appropriate because there could be snow on top. So
despite Christmas approaching and the difficult conditions, police say their investigations will continue. Jo's Christmas presents are already packed under her parents' tree. All they want is their daughter back.
Please come home, Jo. Our hearts are breaking up with not having a little girl with us. Greg is going through hell. Please come home. Please contact us. Please let her go.
Just let her go if you've got her. Let her go and let her come back to me and her dad and her family.
Rhiannon, whichever way you look at it, this is a terrible mystery. What lines of inquiry are there for the police?
Well, yeah, there's been a huge amount of police activity here on Canage Road where Jo lives. There's also been a lot of activity in other nearby areas, Clifton Village, Avon Gorge as well. The main thing, though, that police were keen to stress today is for help in tracing that pizza box. Now, it may seem like a rather unusual thing for them to appeal for during such a serious inquiry like this, but they believe that that is the only thing which is missing, which Jo had with her when she was heading back from that Tesco store. Everything else that she had with her, from her bag to her mobile phone to her purse were all found inside her flat. Now, I did ask DCI Brennan earlier about the parents' suggestion that she may have been abducted. He didn't want to be drawn on it, but he certainly said that was one area of inquiry that they are looking into. He also was very keen to stress that Christmas may be coming up, but they certainly are going to carry on investigating until they can hopefully find Joe.
Indeed, Rhiannon, thanks very much indeed. Rhiannon Mills there live for us in Clifton. And anyone with information about Joanna's disappearance is being asked to call these numbers. The incident room on 0845 456 7000, 0845 456 7000. And you can also call Crime Stoppers. That's on 0800 555 111. 0800 555 111. The former Scottish Socialist Party leader Tommy Sheridan
a problem they can put behind them.
James, thank you. Well, how long can we expect the disruption to last? Sky's Rhiannon Mills is at the news wall with more.
Well, let's show you the latest situation, shall we? Throughout the course of the day, the ash cloud has actually moved south across the UK. The thickest density is currently sitting over central Scotland and also northern parts of England. There is actually ash right across the UK. And the Met Office has predicted it's going to carry on moving southeast towards Germany. The worst of the cloud may even have cleared Britain completely by lunchtime tomorrow. But of course, that depends on the volcano continuing to erupt at the same intensity. Now, hundreds of flights have been cancelled throughout the course of the day, with airports in Scotland and the north of England the worst affected this evening. 3 airports have already lifted restrictions, but passengers have been warned to still expect delays. So, of course, the advice, as ever, is always to check with the individual airline before you travel. Martin.
Let me just bring you the latest information we have about this British Airways.
From the World Health Organization have said using mobile phones could increase the risk of certain types of brain cancer. A group of 31 scientists said handheld phones should be classified as possibly carcinogenic after they discovered some evidence to suggest that using the devices led to higher rates of glioma, a type of malignant brain tumour. Well, joining us now in the studio to discuss this is Sky's Rhiannon Mills. What should we make of this then?
Well, I think what's really interesting is the World Health Organization previously have said that there is no established link between using your mobile phone and cancer, but now they're saying it is possibly carcinogenic after re-looking at this evidence and cutting the medical jargon, i.e. they're saying that there is possibly this link between an increased risk of a certain type of brain cancer and using your mobile phone. As a result, they're now saying that maybe we should think a little more carefully when we're using our mobile phones, possibly send a text instead rather than making that call, or use your hands-free kit instead. But the mobile phone companies tonight are probably inevitably saying that they're downplaying this. They're saying it's not based on any new scientific evidence. They're also saying that the cancer category that they're putting it into is the same as coffee and pickled vegetables, which is quite interesting. We've also heard from the Department of Health tonight and the Health Protection Agency, who are saying it's not actually changing their advice at the moment. They still advise precaution when you are using your mobile phone, especially when children are using mobile phones. But of course, with around 5 billion people, huge number, now using mobile phones worldwide, I think both the World Health Organization and the mobile phone companies are all going to agree that a lot more research has got to be done.
Rhiannon, thank you. German authorities have admitted they can't be sure that Spanish cucumbers were the source of a deadly E. coli outbreak. 16 people have now died, and health officials are warning this number will rise as the outbreak spreads across Europe. Sky's Simon Newton reports.
To mark 60 years of Her Majesty's reign. Sky's Rhiannon Mills at Buckingham Palace. Tell us a bit more about what is planned, what we can look forward to.
Well, it's certainly going to be an incredibly busy weekend for the Queen, for the royal family and the rest of us as well. Let's give you a quick rundown of some of the things that are going to be taking place. Starting on Saturday, the 2nd of June, the Queen, it's a little bit of a treat for her to start the Diamond Jubilee weekend. She's off to the Epsom Derby to see the horses. On the next day, Sunday the 3rd of June, she's encouraging us to hold our own big Jubilee lunches. So get those trestle tables out, hold those street parties again and meet up with your friends and family. But at the same time, the Queen's also going to be taking the royal barge along the Thames in the Diamond Jubilee pageant, and that could prove to be incredibly spectacular. Around 1,000 boats heading up the Thames with her. Now, on Monday, that becomes a Diamond Jubilee bank holiday, and there's set to be a concert at Buckingham Palace with tickets available in a public ballot. And at the same time, across the UK, there's also going to be 2012 beacons lit right across the UK. Now, a special treat as well on the Tuesday, we're also going to have another bank holiday. That's the late spring bank holiday that's being moved to then. And then we're having a Thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral and also a formal carriage procession by the Queen. So if you add all those days up, yes, once again, it means we're getting a nice 4-day weekend courtesy of the royal family. I think it's also going to be tourism bosses who are going to be celebrating as well. They believe that so many people are going to flock here for the celebrations that, along with the royal wedding and also the Olympics, is going to prove to be a £2 billion boost to the British economy over the next 4 years. However, if you don't want to brave the crowds here in London, there's also going to be plenty of things that you can do at home. You can still get your bunting out, get those Union Jack napkins out, hold those street parties and enjoy what's going to be a hugely historic weekend.
That sounds like a fun year all round. Rhiannon, thank you very much indeed. The Immigration Minister has denied claims that he's granted
tickets for the Olympics. You weren't alone. It emerged today 1.2 million people have been left empty-handed, but there is now a second chance to attend the greatest show on earth. Rhiannon Mills has the details at the Newswheel.
So, what exactly are the tickets that are left and when can you get hold of them? 2.3 million tickets are available for those who did not receive any tickets in the first round from 6 a.m. on the 24th of June, and you'll then have until 6 o'clock p.m. on the 3rd of July to apply for them. After that, those who did get some of their tickets, but not all of them, can also have another go from 6 a.m. on the 8th of July until 6 p.m. on the 17th of July. These will be on a first-come, first-served basis. So what events can you still get tickets for? Well, the vast majority are actually for the football, with 1.7 million tickets up for grabs. That's 3/4 of all of those left. Now, you can also still get into the athletics as well, with 40,000 tickets available, and there's 600,000 tickets to 44 medal events as well, including basketball, beach volleyball, boxing, handball, hockey, judo, rowing, table tennis, volleyball, wrestling and weightlifting events. Now, one fan who did get tickets, but not exactly the ones he'd wanted, says he wishes he'd only applied for the big name events. Luke Walden's family is sports mad. He applied for tickets in every Olympic category with a budget of £3,500. In the end, he only got tickets for handball, and that means he's now excluded from the next round of tickets.
It seems that we've missed out on everything, swimming, athletics-wise, anything that we wanted to be in, because we didn't put all of our efforts into that because we didn't think we'd need to. So instead we're left with the few handball tickets, for which we are grateful. We'll go and see it, but it's not what I would have gone for if I'd known more information at the beginning.
The ticketing process has faced a lot of criticism, with many claiming the ballot was unfair. That's denied by the Olympic Committee.
We've got 2.3 million tickets available for the second round, and my objective is to get 2/3 of the 1.9 million people who applied for tickets into a venue. We know who they are. They're sports fans. They're sports mad. They signed up for the journey. They signed up to the website. They joined the application, and I want them in the stadium, and that's my commitment.
Now, of course, in the first round, 6.6 million tickets went on sale, but 2/3 of those people were unsuccessful. The most popular event was the opening ceremony, unsurprisingly, which had 2 million applications. The 100-metre men's final was the next most popular event, with 1.3 million ticket requests. So if you are after a seat at one of the big events, don't forget this time it will be first come, first served.
Rhiannon, thank you. 2 British soldiers have been killed in separate incidents in Afghanistan. A service
Quarters at Wapping, and Rhiannon, both Murdoch Jr. and Senior in the building behind you today. What's the atmosphere been like in News International? What sort of reaction has there been to today's events?
Well, there's no doubt that the journalists still left inside here can't have ignored the incredibly fast-moving developments we've seen once again in terms of this story, and also the comings and goings. It was around 7 o'clock this evening that we saw Rupert Murdoch leave the building in a blacked-out vehicle. Shortly after that, James Murdoch also left. That was after sending that letter to the Select Committee in which he stressed that they are committed to ensuring that the issues that affected the News of the World are fully investigated and dealt with appropriately and robustly. Of course, the News of the World is no more, but there are still many journalists still working inside here. A lot of them don't want to talk to us. However, there was one member of the Sunday Times staff who earlier said for him it's very much business as usual. They still have a newspaper that needs to be published on Sunday. They're still cracking on with that. And he said that he hadn't actually ever been into the News of the World newsroom. They worked very much as separate identities, but no doubt him and many other journalists will be watching very closely on Tuesday to see how his bosses fare at that Select Committee, as the attention is still very much on News International and also the Metropolitan Police.
Rhiannon, thank you very much. Meanwhile, the FBI has said tonight that it's investigating claims that News Corp tried to hack the phones of September the 11th victims. Well, live in Washington is our US correspondent Greg Milan. Greg.
Well, sources at the
Rhiannon Mills has claimed that she was told by a senior journalist for the Mirror newspaper that her phone had been hacked. She says that parts of a message left by Sir Paul were read back to her in 2001. If true, it's a further indication that the phone hacking scandal involved newspapers other than the News of the World. Well, this is what Ms Mills said to the BBC's Newsnight programme.
He started quoting verbatim the messages from my machine. He started laughing, and I said, "Why are you laughing?" And I said, "You've obviously hacked my phone, and if you do anything with this story," because they were obviously very private conversations about issues we were having as a couple, and I said, "Then I'll go with the police." And he said, okay, yeah, we did hear it on your voice messages, I won't run it.
Well, Sky's Rhiannon Mills is here to tell us more. Does this widen the allegations and the investigation then, Rhiannon?
Well, certainly it is interesting tonight. Obviously, in the past, any phone hacking allegations have been against the News of the World, those lists that Glenn Mulcaire had in his notebooks. But this does appear to widen the issue out. There have been mutterings ever since we've been talking about the phone hacking scandal, about whether it was going on in other parts of Fleet Street. And this certainly appears to be one of the first pieces of evidence that it may have been going on. Now, we have to stress that the senior journalist that Heather Mills talks about is not Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan was editor at the Daily Mirror at the time. However, this message that Heather Mills does refer to does seem to relate to one that Piers Morgan mentioned in an article in the Daily Mail back in 2006. He said in that article, at one stage I was played a tape of a message that Paul had left for Heather on her mobile phone. It was heartbreaking. The couple had clearly had a tiff. Heather had fled to India and Paul was pleading with her to come back. He said sounded lonely, miserable and desperate, and even sang "We Can Work It Out" into the answer phone. Now, it's also important to stress that Piers Morgan, despite mutterings that have been going on the likes of Twitter, has denied that he knew anything about any allegations of phone hacking that may have been going on at the Daily Mirror.
So what happens to this information now, then?
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens next. At the moment, the Met Police investigation is very much focusing on the News of the World, those details that they've had from Glenn Mulcair. Going to be very interesting to see whether they also pick up on this information and take that forward as part of their investigations. Maybe also we should stress this does relate to a phone call that happened 10 years ago. Also, Heather Mills has had a rather turbulent relationship with some of the papers in the past as well. But also Trinity Mirror tonight, they are saying that our position is clear. All our journalists work within the criminal law and the PCC Code of Conduct.
Rhiannon, thank you very much indeed. The former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak has denied charges that he conspired to kill protesters during the uprising against his regime this year. 6 months after being ousted from office, he was brought into a court on a bed and held.
The prospect of severe punishment is remote. David Bowden, Sky News.
Let's go live to Westminster Magistrates Court that is sitting throughout the night in Sky's Rhiannon Mills. Rhiannon, how many people have they dealt with so far, and how many do they hope to do so throughout the night?
Well, yeah, usually a magistrates court like this would have been closed long ago, but tonight it's very much business as usual. So far this evening, we've only seen around 2 cases go through. That was before I arrived, and I understand they were juvenile cases, teenagers, so we can report very few details about those cases. Since then, there's been a lot of rushing around, solicitors, court clerks, trying to find various bits of paperwork, and that's no doubt because there have been so many arrests over the last few days. They are dealing with a huge, unprecedented number of cases, but about 10 minutes ago we did see a prison van arrive with a number of defendants inside, so I've got no doubt that over the next kind of half an hour or so we should see more cases being processed. There's also a little bit of confusion about how many cases we could see dealt with this evening. One court clerk was saying they were told to expect up to 200 cases. A defence solicitor, however, said it was probably more likely to be around 20. We also this evening had an arrival from Keith Vaz, the head of the Home Affairs Select Committee. He said he went to Clapham earlier this evening and wanted to follow up that visit with a trip here to the magistrates to see how those arrested following those horrendous riots earlier in the week were being dealt with.
Rhiannon Mills, Westminster Magistrates Court, thank you. Detectives investigating a serious assault on a man during the riots in Ealing on Monday night have released CCTV images of a suspect. He's described as black with a big build. He was wearing a white T-shirt with writing on the front and dark-coloured jumper over his shoulders. Police also wanted to speak to a potential witness who was at the scene. Anyone with information is asked to call the incident room on 020 8721 42.
Are you able to tell us this evening?
Well, it was at about 2:30 this afternoon that this terrifying incident for people here happened. We understand that a man went into Carol Ann Hairstyling, the hairdressers involved, and then opened fire. As a result, 3 women are injured. One was shot in the knee. The other 2 women, one has neck injuries and the other has injuries to her arm, although we haven't been told whether or not they are related to the gunshots that were fired. But most importantly, we have been told tonight that they do not have life-threatening injuries as they're being treated at Royal Gwent Hospital. Now, also significantly tonight, the man that police believe carried out this attack, he hasn't been seen since then. They have launched a major police investigation to try and find him, and this is what they told me earlier.
The man that was seeking in connection with this incident is believed to be in possession of a grey Mini Cooper car. Now, the registration number of that car is OE55CVB. Now, the last time that car was seen, it had a set of black furry dice in the windscreen. So we'd ask if anybody sees that car that they should contact us straight away.
Now tonight the Malpass Road is still closed off. If I move out the way you can hopefully see Carol Ann's hairdressers. We've got forensic teams still looking around the area. We've seen a number of police officers looking in drains, obviously trying to get any evidence relating to what happened earlier this afternoon. But the fact that this is such a busy road, it is one of the main roads that runs through Newport, they're hoping may help them to trace the man who's behind this.
Rhiannon Mills live in Newport. Thank you. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have met the parents of 3 men.
In Kent.
Well, there was better news today for people trying to fly, with most airports now back open, although many flights are still delayed or cancelled. Sky's Rhiannon Mills has been to Stansted to find out just what it takes to get the runways back up and running.
It's been a long wait for some, dreaming of sunny destinations, instead stuck at Gatwick in the cold. Today the airport finally reopened. Although with a backlog of cancellations and delays, there was still no guarantee you'd be able to get away.
We're on standby for 12:30, but that's been cancelled. So now they're trying to get us on standby for any other plane today.
A bit of a nightmare, but hopefully we'll be flying out this morning. It's another delay for us, so we'll see what happens.
There's no one here. We're just hoping that there's at least one person here who can tell us what to do.
At Stansted Airport in Essex, it was cold, but they were keeping going. We went out with one of their snow teams. First stop, a check on the runway.
I'm looking at the surface condition, obviously whether it's dry, wet, damp, that type of thing, snow covered.
Industrial-sized de-icers are just part of their kit. They have 40 different vehicles just to deal with weather like this. Dealing with hundreds of their own flights and a few extra arrivals from the likes of Gatwick mean it's no small job to keep an airport like this running during these freezing cold temperatures. And just de-icing a plane like that can cost thousands, so a lot more than your can of de-icer at home. They haven't had snow as heavy as Gatwick and admit you can't be complacent.
We've got the runway, we've got taxiways, we've got parking stands for aircraft, which are vast areas, all of which need to be de-iced regularly. So we have a team of individuals, we have 2 shifts that are working 24 hours a day, 20 vehicles with 20 drivers doing nothing but de-icing and de-snowing. It's a very complex and challenging thing to do.
But with the cold weather continually catching us out, the travel industry want more money spent on equipment like this, even if it is old technology that keeps them flying. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
And of course, for the latest weather alerts and traffic information, go to our website, skynews.com. You'll find all live updates on roads, airports and trains. Former Labour MP David Chayters pleaded guilty to 3 charges of false accounting in relation to his parliamentary expenses. He's the first politician to get a criminal conviction following the expenses scandal last year. He'll be sentenced at Southwark Crown Court on January 7th. The head of the England 2018 World Cup bid team is calling for big changes in the FIFA voting process. Andy Anson said there's little point England bidding for the tournament again with FIFA reform. Ian Dubston reports.
Andy Anson shaking his head, still at a loss to understand why it all went so terribly wrong. England's bid chief has now spoken to FIFA members who promised but did not deliver.
This is not our excuse at all, but they are saying to us that our media killed us. Now, I don't believe that. I don't believe that for 1 minute. You've given us a hard ride at various times, but I think we've had a good, fair ride as well. We've had a lot of dialogue. That's what we're being told.
Mr. Warner, good morning. Welcome to Zurich. It's clear Panorama was at the centre of Sepp Blatter's pre-vote evils of the media speech to delegates, and the BBC's website has now been inundated with complaints about the timing of its documentary. Meanwhile, the Sunday Times, whose successful investigation saw 2 FIFA executive members suspended, has defended its position.
And as soon as the Sunday Times did its investigation that showed that 2 members of the FIFA
committee were prepared to take bribes in return for their vote, England's 2018 bids should have said at that point, that's it. This is wrong. We're not going to continue to be involved in this, because by doing that, we endorse a corrupt process.
The bid team, David Dean among them, set off for home with a sour taste in their mouths at what went on yesterday behind closed doors. With 2 members of FIFA's executive committee suspended, the remaining 22 had the vote, and the England bid team believed they could get support from as many as 9. But in the end, just 2 votes came England's way. One, of course, was from its own representative, Jeff Thompson. But while it's been suggested that Cameroon's Issa Hayatou, one of those accused by Panorama earlier this week, cast the other vote, Sky News understands it actually came from Japan's Junji Ogara. Jack Warner, despite enjoying the company of David Beckham in Trinidad and sitting down with David Cameron in Zurich, voted for Russia. And it's understood Michel Platini went with Holland and Belgium's bid in the first round, but switched to Russia in the second, despite Holland and Belgium still being in the running, a clear anti-English tactic. Jeff Thompson's influence on the executive committee is being questioned, but he has received support from the bid's vice-chairman.
He is easily the most senior and influential person in English football in the corridors of international power. I think it would be churlish to be pointing the finger at Jeff Thompson.
Of course, so many of the failed bids, including England's, are now asking FIFA to be more transparent in their voting process. But ironically, those bids, including England, are not prepared to be transparent themselves about the people who've lied to them. There is a more deep-seated problem here, though. English football is wholly unpopular within FIFA.
Maybe we just have to accept that we're not very well liked. I don't think many people like the English for some reason.
FIFA prides itself on fair play, but World Cup bidders from Australia through America to England and beyond would beg to differ. Ian Doverston, Sky News, Zurich.
Britain's military operations in Afghanistan have been harshly criticised by the country's President Hamid Karzai and also the American commander of NATO troops. Secret US embassy cables obtained by whistleblowing website WikiLeaks report conversations in which Mr. Karzai said Britain wasn't up to the task of securing Helmand province without support. 2 British helicopters have been dispatched to Israel to help tackle a massive forest fire that's killed 41 people. Among the dead, a bus full of prison guards who were trapped when a burning tree blocked their route. Firefighters from Russia, Bulgaria, Jordan and Greece have arrived in the country now after Israel appealed for international assistance.
The second Ashes test resumes at midnight in Adelaide, with England looking to press home their advantage. Australia were bowled out for 245 on day 1 as they made their worst start to a test innings in 60 years. England closed on 1 without loss. The Premier League game between Blackpool and Manchester United is the biggest casualty of the freezing conditions so far. 24 Football League games have been called off. Just 1 game in Scotland is going ahead. And the Davis Cup final between Serbia and France stands at 1 rubber apiece after the opening day singles. Novak Djokovic beat Gilles Simon to level the tie in Belgrade. Serbia have never won the Davis Cup.
There'll be icy conditions for many this evening and overnight as rain, sleet and snow spreads across England and Wales, although southern areas and coastal parts will generally have rain. Wintry showers will affect Scotland as well. Meanwhile, further rain will move into parts of Ireland. Saturday will begin frosty, icy and rather cloudy, but rain will soon clear southeast England, whereas rain across Ireland will spread into Wales and western parts of England, with snow over the Pennines. It'll be another cold day away from the southwest, and although Scotland will be brighter, there'll be some heavy snow showers in the far north. Rain will return to eastern England later, but Ireland will become mostly dry, and there'll be widespread icy roads once again, with fog in places. Check out our website, skynews.com. You'll see roaring back from bankruptcy, the film studio's getting a new lease of life. Coming up, royal retirement, the ship that's pulled into dock for the last time.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, bye.
Yes?
They're happy.
Perfect. Hey, Steve, we're on.
When our customers are happy, we know we're doing the right thing. Like providing cleaner, more reliable sources of energy. GDF Suez, rediscovering energy.
Every day holds promises and challenges to be met. At the BNP Paribas Group, we understand it takes everyone to move the world forward. So let's keep trying, let's keep dreaming, let's keep reaching. BNP Paribas, the bank for a changing.
First this morning, more than 200 people have been arrested after trouble flared during a march against spending cuts. A breakaway faction of protesters went on the rampage for hours through central London, attacking banks and well-known landmarks. 31 police officers were among 66 people injured as they clashed with the activists. This report from Rhiannon Mills contains some flash photography.
The violence went on well into the night, against the backdrop of some of London's biggest landmarks. The result, hundreds arrested, police and protesters injured, and this morning a huge clean-up operation is underway. It's hard to believe in lots of ways the amount of mess and damage that's been left behind by this group who are obviously so intent on causing so much trouble this weekend. It's the banks and the retailers who are going to be facing some serious bills, but this group really have managed to leave their mark. Earlier in the day, more than 250,000 people had hoped that it would be their message making the headlines. Travelling from all over the country to campaign against the government cutbacks, they weaved peacefully through the streets of the capital. Union leaders were quick to condemn any violence.
I just hope that the hundreds of thousands of people who've taken part in our demonstration, their message that we need change from this government, that isn't clouded by reporting of whatever else has been happening in other parts of London.
Just streets away, another group had very different intentions. The Ritz Hotel was just one of the buildings on their hit list. Windows were smashed, paint and smoke bombs thrown. The luxury department store, Fortnum & Mason, was another target. Normally so calm, it was overrun by 200 members of the campaign group UK Uncut. Other stores like Topshop and numerous banks were also attacked. For officers on the front line, it was a dangerous place.
We have had quite a lot of horrible things thrown at police officers, including light bulbs with ammonia in them, petrol bombs. We had an officer, could have been badly hurt, but fortunately was put out before it got too injured. So fortunately, no one's seriously hurt. It's buildings that have been damaged, but they can be repaired.
As more missiles were thrown and some tried to damage the Olympic clock, the lines of riot police went in. Containment was always meant to be a last resort. This group of demonstrators have been contained here at Trafalgar Square after running scuffles broke out between the police and the protesters, and it was scenes like this that the Met Police were so keen to try and avoid. More than 200 arrests have already been made. Video evidence taken by police could lead to even more.
What am I doing? I haven't done anything. I'm just covering my face.
But this morning they'll also be focusing on how they can stop further scenes like this, aware that more protests are planned. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
And just to let you know, you can get all the news and reaction to yesterday's protests on our website. That's at skynews.com. And we'll have more of the day's news very shortly, as well as a look at the front pages of Sunday's papers. But first, let's cross live to Jeremy Thompson, who's in Tripoli for us this morning.
Managing Director at the IMF. Now, he's due to face a bail hearing today in New York as his lawyers try to negotiate his release. Rhiannon Mills with the latest.
This is a police mugshot of Dominic Strauss-Kahn after his arrest on suspicion of sexually assaulting and attempting to rape a hotel chambermaid. As the IMF chief spent a third night on suicide watch in New York's notorious Rikers Island prison, he announced his resignation. In a letter to the IMF, he said, "It is with infinite sadness that I feel compelled today to present the Executive Board my resignation from my post of Managing Director of the IMF. I think at this time first of my wife, whom I love more than anything, of my children, of my family, of my friends. I want to protect this institution which I've served with honour and devotion, and especially I want to devote all my strength, all my time and all my energy to proving my innocence." Later today, his high-profile defence lawyers will make a fresh offer to a Manhattan criminal court judge that Mr Strauss-Kahn should be released on $1 million cash bail and placed under 24-hour home detention with electronic monitoring.
His mood was good. It was serious, but good. He is a strong man, and he's committed to seeing this through.
Separately, Mr Strauss-Kahn is due before a grand jury at the end of this week. It's tasked to decide if there's sufficient evidence to formally accuse him of the crimes. His alleged victim, the hotel maid, appeared before the jury to give her side of the story yesterday. Her lawyer says he's convinced she is telling the truth and is now living in fear.
I think she worries about stepping onto the public sidewalk, and she feels that this is someone who has, great wealth and great power and great ability to do something which could be harmful to her or to her daughters.
No woman asks for a sexual assault.
Strauss-Kahn's decision to step down came as protesters demonstrated about his future outside the IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C. Already, key global figures have started discussing who might replace him.
One obvious candidate in Europe would, for example, be Madame Lagarde, the French Minister of Finance. She has provided very strong leadership in the ECOFIN Council and also at the G20. And she is one of the persons that is most efficient in building a consensus on these very difficult questions that we need to discuss.
Whatever the result of today's bail hearing, the life of a man who was once considered a potential French presidential candidate will never be the same again. Rhiannon